All right, all right. Y'all know what time it is, family. Boom, we in the house. It's the truth hour with General Sarasu Seti. Kick back, get your mind ready for some information that's guaranteed to be happy. All right, y'all know what time it is. KingSeti.com, online marketplace, official General Sarasu Seti DVDs, t-shirts, hoodies, African and Kemetic jewelry for the family. You see what I'm saying? Got that hot collar on. You feel me? Got that hot collar on. You already know what kind of energy that brings to the family. We got holistic tonics and remedies, art and home decor. Like I said, we got African and Kemetic jewelry for the family out there. You know what I'm saying? Fly for the royal and divine African people. Check me out, KingSeti.com, online marketplace. I guarantee you're going to love it. Everything you see, you're going to love. You see, ring the alarm. What? GeneralSeti.com, Seti University, the complete General Seti website, over 800 videos and lectures. I done put Netflix out of goddamn business, Too Raw for YouTube, the Making of the White Man series. You got to have that so you can wake up out your misery. All my debates, all world religions, Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Hinduism, this ism, that ism, ancient Egypt, Ethiopia, India, Black Power politics and economics, the Black Woman is God's series, and much, much more. Get on over there right now, GeneralSeti.com, Seti University, and start binging on that Black Power. You need it. Take a bath in it. Black Power. You see what I'm saying? And to my Patreon. Had a hard one tonight. See, I had to take one of them off of you too. How Zeus Armand became the Kemetic devil. Where that at? Let me put it on there for y'all. It got hot on YouTube. And that was the cut version. You feel me? Shit, that was the cut version. Let me put it on there. There you go. How Zeus Armand became the Kemetic devil. Just did that one on Patreon, the uncut version. Okay? The uncut version. And so I had to take the cut one off of YouTube, so you already know how that one is. So you need to get over there to my Patreon exclusive live stream by the General Hot Topics. You won't see on YouTube over 150, 60 live stream lectures available for viewing only on Patreon. Okay, become a patron today. Patreon, General Sarasu Seti. All the links is down in the video description. Make sure you subscribe to all my YouTube pages. Make sure King Seti, General Seti, and Sarasu Seti rock that notification bell and like the video. So share them with your family and friends. You know what I'm saying? And let's get this popping today. Now, today we're dealing with the oldest sanctuary of the known world. You know, too many of y'all see the church. Y'all see the mosque. Y'all see the synagogue as the only true sanctuaries. In today's the sick world ideology of religion. See, you niggas sit up in the sick sanctuaries of your enemies. You sit up in the sick sanctuaries of your enemy. Some of y'all niggas sanctuary ain't even the church. Some of you niggas sanctuary ain't even the mosque or the synagogue. Some of you niggas sanctuary is the club, is the bar. You see what I'm saying? Is the crack house. You see, that's the sanctuary. You've given up your connection to your ancestors. You know what I'm saying? Who laid out the code, this program in the history of existence. And you have not Sankofa. You have not gone back and fetch. You see, that's what Sankofa to go back and fetch. And many of you don't even know to go back and fetch. You don't even know that there's something to go back and fetch. Because you thinking that you moving ahead today and you moving so far away from your greatness that you on the verge of racial suicide today because you're totally cut the umbilical cord to your ancestors. It's a spiritual umbilical cord. One and it's the same one that's connected to the cosmos, and it's been severed. You know what I'm saying? It's been totally severed, and you don't have no orientation to who you are, and so you're out there in a state of total confusion. And so today we're going to deal with the oldest sanctuary of the known world that gave rise to all sanctuaries, and the sanctuary is a place of worship, to sanctify. You understand what I'm saying? To go and venerate the ancestors, a temple, a place of veneration. And so a lot of people don't understand, that Africa was the first place that created sanctuaries. Because we too busy looking at our ancestors as, crap. We listen to the Christian and the Muslim and the white man and this man and that man who talk down on our ancestors. And so we don't look back. We don't go back and venerate at all. But today, we got to understand that Africa is the Holy Land. It was the Holy Land of the ancients. And so all African people came from all over the world to come back there, just like people come back to Israel today to go to the Temple Mount. And I don't know why because ain't nothing mounted up there. They go back to the Temple Mount and there's nothing mounted up there. You know what I'm saying? It's just an open space. You got the little mosque up there, but that ain't nothing. That just been put up there 2 days ago. And so you venerate in your oppressors' so-called sanctuaries, which really not even sanctified. You see what I'm saying? To be holy. You see what I'm saying? And so let's deal with this. Now, this great structure that we call Sakkara, you see, and at this sanctuary, now this is a pyramid complex. So a lot of people, when they put up Sakkara, they only project the pyramid of Zoser that was constructed by the great architect, the great physician, the grand vizier, the prime minister of ancient Egypt, the high priest. He was the high priest of the craft of Ptah, whom we call Imhotep. Imhotep, who was the first known physician. Not that he was the first, but he was the world's first renowned physician. You see, the physician of the Pharaoh. And so not only was he a physician, he was an architect, he was a poet. He was a politician. He's the world's first multi-genius. And so under let's get Imhotep up here. Here we go. Oh, the great Imhotep, the high priest, the grand vizier, probably one of the most renowned holy men of all time. He's my high priest, he's my prophet. When people talk about prophets, and so Imhotep is almost the greatest of all time. When you speak of Imhotep, you speaking of the greatest holy man, high priest, architect in the history of the known world. And when you look at him and you see that, in his lap, because I pointed this out to my peoples out there, while the Cro-Magnon Neanderthal been lying to you for so long, they'll tell you that scrolls and that the great scrolls of ancient Egypt were predominant in the New Kingdom. And the New Kingdom started around maybe 1600 BC. And here you see the Grand Vizier, the great architect Imhotep, with a scroll in his lap. And this great architect lived around 2700 BC. And so you're going to sit up here and let them tell you that the Africans created papyrus, or the Egyptians created papyrus, because they don't acknowledge that the Egyptians are African, but we don't need them to, because the evidence is so overwhelming that they look like goddamn fools trying to deny. And so you see Imhotep with a blueprint, because just like you need a blueprint today to build any structure, if you want that motherfucker to keep standing, you got to get the mathematics, you got to get the Masonic calculations together. And so when we talk about Masonic, and you talking motherfuckers talk about Masonic and this, that, and the third, that you talking about the first Grand Master of the Masonic order was Zolja, King Zolja, who was the king over Imhotep. Imhotep was the first architect. So when you start master architect, so when you talking about Solomon and Hiram and this, that, and the third, this is a stolen legacy that was taken from Zolja and Imhotep. And if you go out there to California to the I believe it's the Scottish Rite Temple out there, you will see on that temple, a Masonic temple in California. I believe it is Los Angeles, it is. And you see they have all the great masons and architects and the king over that architect. You see statues aligned all down the Masonic temple, and it starts with Zolja and Imhotep. It do not start with Solomon and Hiram Abiff, because they know the truth. And so this great architect here, we talking about built the world's first known that's still standing today. And it shakes the mind, it shakes the core of the mind, because when you're talking about a date, 2700 BC, let's be clear, the world, is totally, there is no other civilization outside of Africa, except colonies that been sent from the Nile, sent from Africa. There is no civilization. Africans started all these civilizations outside of Africa. It was colonists from the Nile Valley that migrated into those areas and started. So when you talk about 2700 BC, let's be clear, there is no Greece, okay? There is no Greece. Understand that 2700 BC, let me be real with you, it ain't even no India. They want to lie. They want to lie to you. And, I seen this one guy, I'm going to get on his head. I want him so, he out here putting all these videos on India, and that's all right. I still watch him. I watch some of his videos, and cool, because he going to places, I would love to go to myself, and I watch him, and he tries to put India over Africa and so on and so forth. Said he even found a goddamn pyramid in India older than the pyramid of Sakkara. I can't wait to get his ass on the platform. Man, listen here. I'm gonna drag his ass. They're gonna, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna intellectually, academically drag him. And I can't wait to get a hold to that motherfucker. So he know I'm looking for him too. He know I'm looking for him. And so hopefully he'll get a heart in his chest one day and call my name so I can come running. You know what I'm saying? So I can come running. And so you see this great architect here built the first Masonic temple, the first holy sanctuary to a deity, the first university. You understand what I'm saying? Of ancient Egypt. This is where, a lot of the education took place. Spiritual, Masonic, science, and all the arts and sciences, a lot of that took place here at Sakkara. And again, it wasn't just, and you can see here some of the, let me come down. You see right here, Meruka. This is the master by Meruka. You see the brother there in his regalia. You see him now. This is at the temple complex of Sakkara. And so Zosia, let's deal with Zosia now. Zosia was the first king, the first pharaoh of the third dynasty. He was the first king of the third dynasty, and the third dynasty is the start of the old kingdom. So Zosia and Imhotep birthed the old kingdom. You see what I'm saying? Which started again, the old kingdom started around 2700 BC. It lasted for about 500 years to around 2200 BC. You see, and so it was one of the greatest ages of all of humankind, and it very well may be the greatest because it is in the old kingdom where the pyramids were built. And so when this is very astounding, because you would think that monuments so massive, would have been in the latter stages of ancient Egypt. You know what I'm saying? And you got to understand, Egypt lasted for 3,000 years. You see, lasted for 3,000 years. But the greatest megaliths that ever been constructed on the planet were constructed in the earliest years of ancient Egypt, which gives, and so we clearly understand that Egypt was not the beginning of this culture. And they will never try to take you up the river, up the Nile where it started. They'll try to insinuate some little green men, some little gray men landed from planet X or this, that, and gave, some little farmers some knowledge or built the pyramids themselves. They'll never give you the greatness of that African people constructed these great monuments, even though the evidence is all over the walls. The little models that the Africans left showing them cutting and squaring the stone. And so you see right here, Meruka, who is clearly a brother of the craft, at the temple of, and you see other brothers on the walls with their Masonic aprons on. You understand, in Masonic ritual. And so this is the university system of Sakkara. This is the oldest Masonic temple of Egypt. I didn't say Nubia. I said of Egypt. And so, and so this was constructed by the great architect Imhotep, which they always show Imhotep with a scroll in his lap. You understand what I'm saying? Because he's an architect. Also, he was a poet. You see, also he was a physician. You see what I'm saying? With all types of formulas and all types of, herbal cures, and he was formulating medicines. And so, this is a great African, one of the greatest Africans that ever lived. You understand what I'm saying? One of the greatest Africans. He was the one who was first to bring forth, the pyramid age. And so we'll see that it was Imhotep, and we'll get down. Wait, we can start right here. You see, and you see that it was Imhotep. Before Zosia, many of the kings and queens were living in mastabas. Now, a mastaba is a single story structure, and many of those were mud brick. You see what I'm saying? And so, Imhotep, came and began to, add layers and add stories to the mastaba. You see, and so when you really look at it, it's a multi-level mastaba. It's on the stage, it's on the way to becoming a pyramid, but really it's a multi-level mastaba. And so Imhotep has taken this, the burials of the king through one of the most enlightening or technologically advancement of any other architect in the history of ancient Egypt. Because what he did at Sakkara is what gave rise to Khufu, Khafra, Menkaure, and all the other greats. If he had not done what he done at Sakkara, they would not have had a blueprint. You see what I'm saying? To take it to the level that they took it to. You see, and so you see that even, when you look at the burial up under the mastaba, it's the same pretty much as the burial up under the pyramid of Sakkara. So that's how you got to know these things. You know what I'm saying? You got to know these things. So when you're looking at, when people ask where the pyramid come from, see, you got to be able to break it down. You got to look at the Masonic blueprint of the mastaba being the first. And that don't mean that they didn't have the technology, but we talking about Egypt is the new frontier at this time. It's just like when the Caucasoid and the Cro-Magnon first came to the so-called America. It was the new frontier for them. You see what I'm saying? And so, there was, and it wasn't as if there wasn't cities here, because the Africans had clearly come here and had cities, you know what I'm saying? But for the most part, for even the Africans, even though they had been here for hundreds, for thousands, I'm not going to say hundreds of thousands, but clearly they had been over here for tens of thousands of years. You know what I'm saying? They had been over here for tens of thousands of years. But yet it was still the new frontier, even to the Africans, because it wasn't as if they could just walk to America. They had to come across the great ocean. And so, Egypt was the new frontier for the Africans up the river. And up the river is Sudan, Ethiopia, in the interior, Uganda, Rwanda, Kenya. You understand? Even going down into South Africa. And so you see that the Africans come down the river. You see what I'm saying? And so even though the technology was, it was there, they didn't have the peoples, they didn't have the skilled tradesmen. And so Egypt in its infancy in the earliest dynasty was just getting the necessary, learned Africans into the area so that they could begin to build on the level that you would see. And it didn't take them long. It took them a couple hundred years, and then they were off running. You see, now what's very clear, just to prove my point, now if you go to the Narmer's palette, and this is the Narmer's palette, you can see in the middle at the top between Heru, the two symbols of Heru, so that shows you that the black woman was God on the first day of ancient Egypt. The black woman was God on the first day of ancient Egypt. You see the symbol of a sanctuary, a temple in between the two Hathors. And so when you look at the design of that temple, you can look into Sakkara and see that it was an advanced reconstruction of temples that existed up the river, but they had yet to use, I believe, stone. They had yet to use the type of stone that will last for eternity. So you see here that, Zoser and Imhotep, when they put the great sanctuary of Sakkara, they in Egypt, they intended for that sanctuary to last forever, and it's still here to this day. So it shows you that the sanctuary of Sakkara came from up the river. Narmer, who came from Nikan, which is actually the third Nomi, is deep south. Nikan is almost, it would have been in Nubia. At that time would have been Nubia. You see? So it shows you again, so we don't have to second guess. And so when you look at, the different burials That's in Africa, especially the Nile, you see the pre-dynastic burials, and one of the things that you see in them early pre-dynastic burials is that the Africans was placed inside in the burial sometimes in pots, and they were placed in a fetal position inside. Either they were in pots or they were just placed inside of the tomb in a fetal position. And the reason why they were placed in the fetal position, because still, even in the earliest date, the black woman was God. And so they were placed into the womb of the earth, Mother Earth, to be reborn into the afterlife. The only reason you would put someone in a fetal position, which is the same position you are in your mama's stomach, you understand what I'm saying, for 9 months until you're born through her womb, the only reason why they would do that in the grave is because they believed that the God of salvation was the black woman, and that they had to go through the process of being reborn, just like you see the son of Ra being reborn every day through his mother. The great God is new. Okay, the great God is new. Also, Heru is the zoo type of the great God is new. Okay, wait a minute, let me take that out of there, that banner right quick. So when you look at Sakkara, you know what I'm saying? Now, the one thing about Sakkara is the first time that the great Pharaoh was laid out on the horizontal. You know, when you see, the body laid in the casket is on the horizontal. And so this was the first time that the body had been laid out on the horizontal. You see? On the horizontal. And so we getting off into some very, powerful information when we talk today. Let me get back up here. Now you got to understand that number one, that when you look at the pyramid of Sakkara, you got to understand that this is the stairway to heaven. This is the stairway to heaven for the great king, and that his spirit would ascend the staircase of the pyramid to become one with the great God of resurrection and the great goddess of resurrection, Osiris and Isis, to be one with the Holy Mother and the Holy Father in the southern hemisphere. You see what I'm saying? So when we talk about sacred astronomy and sacred cosmology of African people, you got to understand that they look to the south. You see, even in their constellations, even because when you look to the Milky Way and you look to Orion, if you at the Great Pyramid or any pyramid, you have to look south. That means you're looking towards South Africa. And so when you look south, you see the Milky Way, which is the image of the great goddess Nu. You see, and when you Heru, that's why they call it the Milky Way, because it is the constellation, the great constellation, or the great I don't know if it's a constellation. You know what I'm saying? But I know it is a cluster of stars, and it forms the arch, which you see in many of the representations of the great goddess Nu. You see, the great goddess Nu. And the Milky Way is the astrological continuation of the river Nile. So the Nile is flowing down from heaven. You see what I'm saying? It's flowing down. The Milky Way comes down from the heavens into the mountain regions, down into the Nile River, into Egypt. And so the pharaohs and the queens and the Africans would take back on their ark, and many of them, when they were buried with arks. And so car would take to the ark and would sail up the Nile into the mountain regions, back up into the Milky Way. And right next to the Milky Way would be the constellation of Orion and the star Sirius. They would sail back up the Milky Way to be one with the great god Osiris and Isis. You see what I'm saying? So this is where you get the stairway to heaven. You see, this is where, and so you have to understand it was under Ptah. When you talk about the old kingdom, it was under Ptah that, some of the greatest monuments and megaliths were constructed on the planet under the great god Ptah. And so a lot of people, I bring this out, and I brought it out over damn near 20 years ago. This is also Ptah. And so people don't understand that Ptah is the Twa. You see, so not only is Best, a lot of people talk about Best, but also Ptah. This was was a Twa, a little with derogatory terms, for the European, they say pygmy and so on and so forth, but that's a derogatory term. And so when you talk about Egypt, Egyptah, Egypt Ptah. So they know where the origins of Egypt came from. Also in Ptah, in the Twa is where you find Anu. You know what I'm saying? Which was the pre-dynastic Africans. You know what I'm saying? Who worshiped the great god. Also Set, who was one of the earliest deities of ancient Egypt. Got to bring that up now. Got to bring that up. And so here at Sakkara, you will see that at the Serdab. Now, Serdab is a little small sanctuary where there's a statue of the Pharaoh. And there's a hole that's carved into that sanctuary. And if you peek through, you will see the statue of the great king, Xochitl. You understand? The great king of that started the third dynasty, that started the old kingdom. Now, what is that? See, when you look at this particular king right here, Sir, I believe his name is Sir, and you see that through that hole, you see the sun is coming in, but it's also projecting, towards the sun through the pineal gland. You see what I'm saying? So the king is actually projecting his spirit out into the cosmos. You see, he's actually projecting his spirit out into the cosmos to be one with the great ones, to be one with his spiritual ancestors. And so this is why you say the umbilical cord, that the third eye or the pineal gland is the umbilical cord connected to the mother cosmos. And once you sever that, see, you see one, and that's your black divinity. You see, once you sever your black divinity, you understand what I'm saying? You ain't got shit. You was a shell, nigga. And then what they do is when they sever it, then what they do, because they know your greatness. See, once you understand your black divinity, then you understand your destiny. See, if you don't understand your divinity, you ain't got no goddamn destiny. See, a motherfucker gonna give you your destiny gonna be, I'm gonna go to school for the white man. Give me one of his degrees. And I'm gonna go down there and I'm gonna go get me a job, and a good job is anything that so-called whatever number you consider, and you're gonna work and you're gonna get your pension, and you ain't got no, and so that's somebody else gave you a destiny within their own system, but you don't have a divine destiny. You were put here long before your spirit and your ancestors and your DNA been here millions of years before any civilization of the Cro-Magnon, the Asian, or any of these other motherfuckers. So you don't understand within your DNA and your divine cells that's in your body that came from your ancestors is a divine destiny and responsibility given to your people millions of years ago, and you done lost it. So only thing go down there, fill out some forms, get you and live your life, nigga, and have no recollection. You have not achieved anything as far as spiritual advancement. To become one with the all in all, to become one with your ancestors, to go sit in the ranks of your ancestors and be praised for the fact that you you continued on in the course of divine responsibility to continue to educate, to continue to make aware to the children their responsibilities as Africans to continue to advance and not digress. You see? And so, at the Sir Dab at Sakkara, you see Zolja sitting in his Sir Dab, transcending, spiritually transcending into the universe. And the sun will come through that hole that's carved and hit him right there on his pineal gland. And there, the spiritual connection, he has ascended. And so this is how, the car, when he passed on, that's how his car ascended into the universe. That's how and when you go to the temple of Abydos, you see that Zolja is the 16th pharaoh whose cartouche is cut into the wall, the sacred king's list at Abydos. And so he was honored by Seti as one of the great ones. And you see Seti up there with his son Ramesses II. He say, behold the great kings of Africa, the great kings of the Nile. You understand what I'm saying? Look at them and study them and venerate them, and follow in their steps. And just like the avatars, you see many avatars that come, and it continue to come. There's no, this one is, you are the manifestation of the great avatar in your time, and it's gonna be ones that come after you. And you got to make sure that they come after you by continuing to teach. You see African greatness and African spirituality and culture. Now, you're looking at Sakkara, when you come in, when you come into the hall, you come through the door, the sacred gate, you will see that there's columns. There's a colonnade. Let me see, is this the only ones I got? No, I got more. Okay, you can see here. You see the colonnades. But and you see now here, this is another one. You see, these are the oldest columns in the world. This is the oldest colonnade in the world. And so you also see in those columns the fluted column, which somehow these people call the Doric. I believe they call it the Doric column. Now, everybody, so you can clearly see where the fluted column came from. You see what I'm saying? And so the Greek temple ain't nothing but an African temple. We got to be clear about that. You know what I'm saying? It is an African temple, and there is no doubt about it. Africans were the ones that constructed many of them temples. You know what I'm saying? Constructed many of them temples. They were not as advanced as the mother culture, wasn't even close to being. But we have to give up the truth of where the Mediterranean culture came from. It was the child of the Africans. And I'm not talking about no Europeans and no Cro-Magnon. I'm saying that Africans were there alone, and that many of those temples were built by Africans. Okay, I don't want y'all niggas to get confused, because y'all niggas love to be, mixing it up and shit and this, that, and the third. No. The Africans never, ever, really, intertwined with the European because of this wicked way. Only through conquest, and even then they fled, you understand, to other areas where the Cro-Magnon did not exist. So we got to be clear about that. And so when we look at Imhotepin language, you know what I'm saying? We look at Imhotepin language. This is where the great University of Sakkara taught many of the priests. Many of the, and don't let them people tell you that only the priests had education. That's a goddamn lie. Ain't no way you're going to have no civilization as great as ancient Egypt that lasts for 3,000 years and only a few motherfuckers had some education. this was the first literate civilization on the planet where the mass populace was educated. And we got to be clear about that. And see, they don't want you to see how ancient language was. So, a lot of people talk about Sumeria and this, that, and the third. That shit ain't got no relevance to when you look at Arabic, you look at Hebrew, you look at all them other goddamn so-called scripts, Aramaic and all of that. That is nothing but the Demotic, hieratic script that was, been stolen from Africa, that they applied they grunts and they groans, you know what I'm saying, onto the alphabetic script of African people. And so Samaria ain't got nothing to do with nothing. When you look at that shit that you see in Samaria, it has no connection to Hebrew, Aramaic. We talking about the script. We talking about the alphabetic script. Has nothing to do with that shit you see in Samaria. Not at all. So I want them people out there to quit lying. So when it comes to language and it comes to, we talking about institutions and, you know what I'm saying, African people brought the academic, the political institution, the spiritual institution into existence. And you cannot do that without language, without alphabet, without dictionaries, encyclopedias, without students, without professors and teachers and institutions, which we call university systems. And so African people were the first to bring these forth, and Sakkara is the oldest of these universities and sanctuaries on the planet, still standing today. And also, since we had to bring that up, we had to talk about the Nagas, the veneration of the serpentine energy. You know what I'm saying? And the serpent was one of the symbols of the great goddess, but it was also a symbol of spiritual energy that, that had come down from the cosmos. You see, and so you'll see many times, you'll see even today that scientifically, energy is measured on waves. And so waves and the serpentine movement is synonymous. And so that's why when you water and serpents, and the Naga is a water serpent. Also, you get the Leviathan, and so you get water and the serpent, and it's synonymous and closely connected. You see, closely connected, water and the serpent. You see, and so again, so we see that at Sakkara, that the serpentine energy was venerated. So that means they was out there dealing with the high science of frequency, of frequency and energy. And so they knew about this early on. And that's why you see that, when you go down into the temple, in the temples that's under the pyramid. There's temples up under the pyramid of Sakkara. And a lot of people think that they went down there with torches and things of that nature. No, they had energy, they had electricity to light up, just like today. You can't go down there with no damn torch. You understand? You're going to have soot, you're going to choke yourself out, and so on and so forth. So they went down there with lights and electricity, and it's shocking the world that, the truth is finally coming out. And people, if you could see the pyramid, if they could build a pyramid, you mean to tell me they can't come up with a fucking light bulb? You mean to tell me you think the light bulb is greater than the construction of the Great Pyramid? So if they could build that Great Pyramid, you don't think they had enough science to make a light bulb? Come on, man, let's deal with this shit. Let's deal with it. And so again, you see the Nagas, which is veneration, to show that, the serpent was worshipped. And even when you look over in Asia, and you see many of the serpents is coming down the temples, you know what I'm saying, in the form of energy and frequency. And so this is the same energy and frequency that hit the Africans on their pineal gland. because they are the manifestation of the sun. They are the manifestation of the cosmos in the flesh on earth. And that is your divine signature. You understand? Unique only to the African. Unique only to the African. And we got to tell the truth and so now you looking here at, this is a drawing of Babylon. And so, you can easily see that it's only a drawing of Sakkara. You know what I'm saying? That it's only a drawing. Now, this is Sakkara, and then you look at the drawing of so-called the ziggurat of Babylon. And you look, you can see the wall that's around Sakkara. You see the wall that's around Babylon. And so all these motherfuckers out here talking about Samaria and this, that, and the third, know that it's only a copy of a very, and I know a lot of our people had, much to do with it. But it still was on, and the thing about Samaria is that they built, every ziggurat that they ever built, they built with mud brick. They never built in stone. So they never reached truly the Masonic level. They never, Masonic mean to, build in stone. And so they never really reached the Masonic level, and so this is the one thing about Sakkara. Sakkara is the oldest structure that we know of today, built in stone, And so this is the first Masonic hall, temple. And within that, you got to understand that complex. Matter of fact, at Sakkara, that might have been the wall only for the pyramid of Sakkara, but there were other pyramids and other holy temples and other holy burials at this site. It wasn't just Zoja, you see? And so this was a great Masonic hall of a collection, a cathedral. This is the first great cathedral of the Old Kingdom and in Africa. And so just like any Muslim would go to Mecca, just like any Christian would go to the Israel and Vatican, just like any Jew would go to Israel, to Hebron, and to the Temple Mount, just like any Hindu would go to the Ganges River. These are our sanctuaries, our divine sanctuary, where our ancestors constructed spirituality that cannot be advanced because they were exact in their science. And so, what I want to end on this, family, the thing is, our ancestors advanced a lot of sciences that cannot be, added on to. They were exact. They had reached completion and an exact science to where it can't even be, added on to. So you cannot think you can do better than ancient Egypt. You cannot do better because Egypt was the inheritor of at least 1 million years of African development. You see what I'm saying? So in Egypt, I don't want you to think just in 3,000. It was in that 3,000 years where the collection of an advancement of African ingenuity had reached a pinnacle and exact sciences. And that means that our people have been studying the sciences for at least 1 million years. And so they seen all of the flaws. They seen all of the mistakes. They, even when you're talking about the great year, not the 365-day year of the Earth's revolution around the sun. We're talking about the great year where the sun is moving in its divine revolution. You see what I'm saying? Which take 25,000 years. And so imagine even 1 million years. How many 25,000 can you get in 1 million? Let me do that right quick because I love knowing shit like that. 1, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Okay. Let's see. Divided by 25,000. Damn. Woo. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Let me do that again. Okay. $40 times. So if you understand that, 25,000. So if our people, if you just take 1 million years and you think about the great year, the sun's revolution around its greater sun, which many people say is Sirius. It's Sirius. And so if that be so in 25,000 years, and in just 1 million years, our people seen the great year 40 times. And you got to understand that the white man didn't come out the goddamn cave until about, maybe around 2000 BC. He came out the cave. And so he ain't even really been through one house of the zodiac. You know what I'm saying? You're talking about one house in the great year. A house is about 12,000, 1,200 years. So he ain't even, he might have been here, but he wasn't doing research. So he hasn't even done research in one house. And we've been through 40. And so that means you talking about 40 times, and you talking about times 20. Wait a minute. 40 times 12. 480 houses. That means we was doing research. You understand what I'm saying? And you talking about 1,200 years a house. And so we didn't do research in 480 houses. You see what I'm saying? And through our years of being on this planet. You cannot undo that. You cannot come with your feeble ass interpretation and think. And so when you go to ancient Egypt, you're dealing with some exact sciences that have been researched for at least a million. Even if you say 500,000 years, I mean, you could cut that in half and it's still going to be astounding. It's still going to be astounding. So continue to do your research, family. Thank you for being in the house. Thank you for being in the house. Make sure you get back, GeneralSeti.com, Seti University. Get on over there to KingSeti.com, online marketplace. I got something special for you over there. And make sure you get over there to my Patreon, General Cyrus Seti. All my links is down in the video description. Return back to your ancestors, Sankofa. Go back and fetch. This is the General Cyrus Seti saying, hey, arm yourself with knowledge. Bang on that wicked ass beast daily. Liberation through African education and confrontation. Black Pop.